This has just been a great trip and a great experience. We've been on the road starting in Philadelphia, and it's been interesting for me because, well, we dropped off one of our traveling companions this morning when she had to return to New York. But for most of this trip, it's been 3 single mothers with 3 solitary daughters, only children, and me, who was married and had 3 kids, and 2 of them were boys. So it's been interesting. I also want to say that I'm eternally grateful for Ariel and for Hip Mama. I raised my children, as you'll hear from what I read, in the woods in northern Maine, totally out of the loop of connectiveness with anybody. So when I stumbled upon the magazine, my kids were quite a bit older, but it gave you this way of connecting with other women and other energies around the kid thing. What I'm going to read, obviously this is The Essential Hip Mama, and I have an essay in here which is about my daughter graduating from high school and moving on and what that separation thing is all about. But what I'm going to read to you is an essay that's more about all 3 of my, all 3 of my children and what it was like when they were smaller. And then my hope is, in a little Hawking kind of moment here, that you will then want to read further about the little 2.5-year-old cutie who starts this piece, and you can read about her at 18 in this piece. And this piece is called, I must be this one-word title kind of person. This piece is called Choice, and the one in The Essential Hip Mama is called Turning. Wind tongues the small panes of glass beside the bed. I sit on the edge of the mattress, my daughter's body a lump, quivering under the worn quilt, her face in the pillow. The sleet continues to click at the silence. "Mom," she says. "I'm here," I answer. "Sometimes I see her." "Did you see her tonight?" I know exactly where she has been in her head. It started when she was 6. When we argue, she sometimes imagines white picket fences and matching plates and a well-coiffed birth mother. She wore a mint green apron like a bib with ruffles over her shoulders. Under it was a green dress, velvet, I think, with gold buttons. I could see them at the bottom of her dress. Tamara pokes her head out from under the pile of covers. "I couldn't see her face," she adds. She never can. "I bet it was gorgeous," I say. I look down at my jeans and an old woolen sweater, a light dusting of flour on the left sleeve. I am not the perfect mother my daughter envisions. The mother she is reconstructing is someone with whom she never lived, someone she saw only twice in the foster home she lived in for 2 years before she came north in a borrowed black Ford. I am the mother who brushes damp maple branches from the path, balancing a kerosene lamp on the way to the outhouse. I am the mother who hauls the wood, buckets the water, and measures flour for tofu pie or invented cookie recipes. I am the mother who tips over chairs and drapes sheets to create caverns for play. I am the mother who boogies shoeless to Joan Armatrading and Arnett Cobb and Smokey Robinson, twirling a child wildly. I am the mother who cries over Madame Butterfly. The fact that my daughter has another mother somewhere seems quite normal and quite strange. But the truth is, it affects our lives not at all. The bigger truth is, I couldn't have birthed a more appropriate daughter. I am her mother, just as she is my child. Becca, a neighbor down the road, ruffles Tamara's hair, gives her a hug, sends her off to play with her Nicky. She turns to me and says in her soft voice, "Oh, she is so sweet." "I love her so much," I say. I know if I were to step outside my body, I would see a beaming me, the proverbial red heart pulsing through my pilly sweater. Becca smiles. "I know, but she's not your real child. You can't love her as much as your own." Real versus what? Imaginary? Damn it, she is my own, I want to say. My gut wrenches at comments like this, but I hold back. I know Becca means no harm, and my relationship with my child has nothing to do with anyone else's perception of it. She is my daughter. Of course I love her as much. Sometimes I have feared even more. I smile and explain calmly, "Honest to God, Beck, it's the same." I know she doesn't believe me, But until someone reminds me, I never think of my child as having come from a different world, a different place, a different womb with unknown sperm and unknown egg. My child is very real and very much mine, no matter that she came from a different body in a different state with different genes. Just as many people assume, although most would never acknowledge it, that children who join a family through adoption occupy a position of lesser value or identity or status in that family, they also often assume that people adopt because they can't give birth themselves. Adoption actually was a first choice for us. Pregnancy just made it happen second. With over 250,000 children living in foster care in the United States, we knew that children already had been born who needed us. The first time I saw Tamara, she was a 2-year-old child with chocolate-colored ringlets. Wearing a red jacket exposing her delicate wrists, she stood beside a 2-foot by 1-foot box of all her belongings and offered me a face so sadly sweet I was afraid to kiss her. My daughter is the town's first black resident and my second child. The first is 7 months younger than she. Tonic was seized from a neat, seemingly too small incision just above my pubic bone in an April when the snows had eaten gravel from the culvert and substituted a raw wound of frigid water for a dirt roadbed. A child with apple-red cheeks suitable for polishing, and sand-colored hair that brushes the small of his back, and an insistence on telling the truth, he began life small and meconium-covered. When he first met his sister, he threw his pudgy arms around her, and they have done in a rhythmic dance of holding and hugging and pushing away ever since. Do they fight? Sure. Are these fights colored by more than those in other families? No. Do they love each other, hate each other, help each other, thwart each other's plans, and soothe each other's fears and apprehensions? All of the above. That's what family is. I am the mother who is all things to Tonic, with no shadow thoughts in the background, no escape plans for a better life. This mother is the only mother. He wishes sometimes he could invent a father other than the one he has. This father stuck around for years, but he's never been much of a parent, always too busy, always somewhere else, always consumed with what he wants to do. He promises swing sets, he promises time, he promises he will not yell anymore. They are only promises. I used to believe that if you choose to adopt a child, no matter what it takes, you must fulfill all promises. But as with other things, the child seized from my womb and the child who slid into daylight through another's birth canal get the same deal. Some promises we can fulfill, some we choose not to, and others are just unfillable. And so I became mother and father to everyone. Home is Mount Chase, Maine, population 164. It is snow-sled riding hunter-logger community. Maine is the second whitest white-bread state in the country, but this town never blinked at me and mine. They smiled at a child who insisted on wearing his underpants on the outside when he was 3. And often I swear these small-town folks saw no color when it came to one of theirs, and that's what the Hood kids were. They were theirs, just like the McCarthys and the Craigs and the Carvers. No, nigger was not an unheard word, but it was a word quickly squelched. Chucky called you a name on the bus, Tamara? Asked the principal. Yes, the make-no-wave second-grade daughter says quietly. Do you want to tell me what it was? No, she says. Was it nigger? Yes, the small voice answers. I'm sorry, it won't happen again, and I'll be damned it didn't. To me, this family is like any other, with joy and pain and wounds raw enough to bleed if rubbed too hard. To me, this family is not about adoption, but about the extraordinary people that make it weather and survive and thrive. Honestly, a black child was not the strangest thing about us. It is far stranger to our neighbors that we are vegetarians than that our family includes an adopted child. In the 2nd grade, Mrs. Carroll tells Tonic he will die if he continues to be a vegetarian. He tells her George Bernard Shaw did quite well. She sends him to the principal's office. It is far stranger to be a 3rd-grade atheist, black or white, in a town with a rabid, foot-stomping Pentecostal church, a Methodist church, one Catholic, a Jehovah's Witness, a small Seventh-day Adventist congregation, the Baptists a few miles down the road, and a Cub Scout troop that Tonic would not lie for. It is far stranger that we have no television, that we have an adopted child, and that she happens to be black. Our children just make us more visible in a town where we have always been more visible. We live in a quirky, jury-built home that sports early American insulation, a welded barrel stove pumping out heat in winter, and holding vases of daisies and delphiniums in summer, stapled cloth on sheetrocked walls, a hand pump in the kitchen, and barn boards torn from the leavings of other people's lives. A tree trunk supports the kitchen counter. An 80-year-old neighbor says elephants could mate and the floors would hold. Tamara wants things in order. Tonic doesn't care. He saves pine cones and pebbles. She tucks the playpans under the counter, wipes the tables, and tells her brother, "No, don't touch," in a very touchable home. Some might suggest that she is like this because her foster parents kept her confined to a small room with a television and a couch. The rest of the house was off limits. Some might surmise her behavior is genetic. The why doesn't matter to me. She is my daughter, and my daughter likes order, for whatever reason. Tamara's adoption paves the way for her brother Arik, the town's second black resident, the child with the strong face, spindly legs, and piano fingers, who bruises my shins under a restaurant table in Columbus, Ohio, while he daintily blots his 2-year-old lips with a napkin as I sign the placement papers his social worker slides across the Formica tabletop. 2 plane rides and a 2-hour drive later, he greets his 5-year-old brother and his 6-year-old sister by smacking them in the face with a Matchbox Rolls Royce. The weather is good for his arrival. A mild fall, sweet apple-scented wind, no turmoil. The life, however, is stormy. He is my macaroni and cheese out-of-the-box boy, the one that brings me to highs and lows I never imagined possible, including when he steals a gun and tells his third-grade classmates he will need it in New York City to hunt for food when he leaves us. Arik can step over a bleeding person and merely look inquisitively at the scenario, the placement of a curled finger, the lay of the palm, the lips, a detached observer at 2 or 5 or 9. He arrives with no observable thread of empathy and continues to walk a line that teeters on the edge of immorality. I labor over empathy, sympathy, even plain old caring. The boundaries between right and wrong blur. He often sticks in the gray area no matter what I do. When he is 3, I realize how seriously he pushes touch away, uncomfortable being its focus. And so I decide to respect his space. I am a space respecter by nature. I cannot easily hug him or kiss him. Sometimes I am lucky. He forgets and puts his arm around me softly, almost gently, his voice climbing and shooting and winging itself in conversation. This works until he is 7. I am angry, and so is he. I cannot recall what has happened. "You don't love me as much as you love Tonic and Tamara," he gulps. I'm shocked. "Why would you say that, Arik?" I ask. "Because you don't hug and kiss me as much as you do them." And so I begin again to maul and slobber and touch, and he continues to push and scowl and rebuff. I am thick-skinned. I am the mother who has marked every time he said "I love you" in a notebook. There are 5 entries. He is the child who never thinks about mothers, present or past, birth or adopted, real or imagined. Some might speculate that this son of mine is emotionally distant because he spent the first 2 years of his life alone in a crib, barely touched, playing with the wrinkles in the sheet or the folds in his diaper. Some might believe that he has inherited this distance thing, but I think he could just as easily have stolen the gun if I had watched him slip out from between my own thighs. Who knows? Who cares? I only care that he opens a little, softens his hard exterior to let the light kiss of those who dearly love him penetrate the surface of his dark skin. He is mine, and I want him to know that I love him for all that he is. People ask, why black children? The answer is, not black children. Children, and they are black. These were our criteria: any sex, any race, any religion, no serious mental or physical problems, and under the age of 5. Shani was to have been child number 3 just before Arik. In a playground in Mattapoisett, Massachusetts, this 2-year-old son of a Nigerian prince stares through my solid body as if it were thin glass. His eyes are hollow, his broad, unsmiling lips are set. I am so uncertain, fearful actually, I push down the lump in my throat. I juggle fear and love with the arrival of each child, adopted or birthed. Even those who know me best don't know this about me. The fear has been so sharp and deep sometimes that I cannot keep a journal because I only trust myself to put down inanities, simplistic reactions. I know that something is very wrong, but I take this new son the 400 miles home to meet his brother and sister. Shani sleeps in the Chinese red crib that had been Tonic's. All night I hear him bang his head against the headboard. That explains the bald patch he came with. They said he liked to play with pan covers. They did not say he spins them top-like for hours and hours on end. I drive 45 minutes to the library and take out books. I read in all those hours I cannot sleep until I find the description that matches his behaviors and no longer think I am crazy. I wrestle with my badness, my inability to handle all of this that is Shani. How do I give back a child? How do I give back my children's brother? How do I say that an adopted child is no different to me than a birthed one, and yet also say autism is too much? In the end, all I can say is that I understand how parents disembowel themselves for their children, and sometimes that disembowelment means giving them up, back, away. All I can say is that my children now understand that sometimes when a parent does what's best for a child and for a family, it's unfathomable to the rest of the world. It is beyond the words I know. No health insurance, a rocky car. The closest facility for Shani was 200 miles away. We make painful choices in a life. Some we regret, all we must live with. I will always remember lifting my hollow-eyed son into the arms of his caseworker in the back seat of a taxi in Boston. 10 months later, Ariel arrives. He slips into the rhythm of family routines, including the drawing of straws for after-dinner jobs, a washer, a dryer, a putter-awayer, and most important now, a storyteller. I pour steaming water into dishpans. We begin. The stories are a necessity, transporting us to parallel worlds. Tonic describes a boy driving an imaginary tofu truck, rattling down a starless, frost-heaved dirt road, his new brother laughing at his side. Tamara tells about the matching pink china plates a little girl would have had if she had stayed with her first mother. Arik explains how a small boy hides from the wolf spiders on a misty evening, their webs like white hammocks full of wings. Their third-person stories are always about them. I don't know how all our stories will turn out, which words make the most significant impact, which harshness damages, which one strengthens, which chrysalis signifies a turning point. I do know that I will continue to listen to the stories, forgive the unforgivable, sing off-key silly under the northern lights, and love these children, the one born of my body and the three not, as fiercely mine as the one who chewed on my nipple, even Shani, who went away. Thank you.
Hi again. So this first piece that I'm going to read is, I didn't write it, but it's in my book. It's by Fern Capella. It's called This Is Your Life. This is your life when you're in a dream at 5 a.m. running fast with your arms empty and you wake up to a screech and you think maybe you hopped a train, but then you feel something warm next to you in bed and you remember you had a baby 3 weeks ago. And he's crying, so you reach over to soothe your precious baby and pull him up on top of you, and as you do, his diaper comes off and his poop is now all over you, so you summon the courage to stand up and clean up, so now you're naked as your parents walk through your room smiling, "Good morning," on their way to get coffee because you're 21 and single, and you're living in their living room, but not for long because their next question is, "When do you think you'll be up to moving out?" And you think, "When do I think I'll be up to moving my body?" But you smile bravely and say, "Probably by next week." So they leave so you can breathe, but breathing is for the baby who you remember again and check on because breath is such a fragile thing. Then your stitches tug and you can't imagine any of this ending, but then you can't imagine any other beginning than the one of this amazing life you call your son and the stupid "You Are My Sunshine" song that set you hysterically crying in front of your baby's pediatrician yesterday as you thought of the second part of that song when the sunshine is taken away and you think, "How could I take that?" And you fully realize a mother's terror. Those poor mothers everywhere. But really you could sob all day, and who has time, because you're one now and your 3-ton tits are the last place you have been attacked in this war against your body as you hold one in each hand to shower while you have head out, ass in to sing your baby gaga songs about maybe getting a fucking break from someone sometime, like his father, that slime. And your mother hears you and is appalled, and you are disgusted with yourself and swear his name will never be mentioned when your baby knows what you're saying, even if it seems like he always has, with the beautiful way he surveys you, and your heart hits the floor. You love him like sapphires under your tongue. And who else but his father calls to say he remembers why he made your baby and he could love you if you let him make another one, and you think that even you didn't have anything to do but host the miracle that was being formed inside you, and this asshole getting ass one night most certainly did not either. So you thank him for his microscopic gift of 1 in 10 billion sperm that just happened to make the prettiest baby you've ever seen, and hang up thinking it's mostly between you and God now. And so you pull some energy out from somewhere deep because you realize you won't be wanting any breaks from him, and you get you and your baby dressed and make your way to the store, and there, in the midst of checkout, you're roused from the seemingly endless days to find the store clerk holding your whining baby with spit up on his dark blue uniform, and you writing a bad check with shaky fingers, and the lady behind you in line dying to find out why your skin is whiter than white, like tied with bleach, and your baby looks like a Cuban who has just been rescued from the seas, and you snarl and you say, "You want to see my stretch marks?" Because he could only be your baby. You get nauseous to think otherwise, though that seems the better option, as your mother mentions later that it's never too late to consider adoption, and you tell her it's never too late to consider suicide, and it's all just so sugar sweet. If you could just melt for a moment with your baby and rest, you might just see clear, but you're interrupted in your merging by a phone call from your very childless gay best friend who wants to go out later with you and the baby, but he's nervous that everyone might think he's the father because the poor kid doesn't have one, and that's the curse of the single mother. You're always left open for insult, and somehow you're always tough enough to take it, and that's the blessing of the single mother. It's not till much later that you have time to write these things, and your back is tired, and your bones are tired, and even your pen seems tired, but the paper is your lover, and you tell it everything, and you tell it how you're terrified, and how you're probably a terrible mother, but only on the shitty days, and you tell it how you've never imagined a love so consuming and close to God as you had for this tender life sleeping in a curl next to you, and you doze off exhausted to wake an hour later, around 5 a.m., to a screech. Thank you. I'm going to read something else also, but I have this email list if you want to know what's going on. If you're not already on it and you're not completely overwhelmed by your email, then you should get on the mailing list. And also, if you care to make a small donation to our finding a place to stay tonight, then you could just slip it under the clipboard, and that would be very nice. Like that. What shall I read to you? I'm going to read to you a little bit from this book that I wrote called The Mother Trip. And I feel like it's bookmarked at funny pieces. Oh well. This piece is called Throw Away the Iron. Raid kills on contact, kills with residual action. Shout quickly penetrates stains. Clorox cleanup kills 99% of household germs in 30 seconds. Ultra sunlight dish detergent fights bacteria. Ocello antibacterial sponges resist odors and kill germs. Playtex latex gloves promise the wearer total control and security. All are hazardous to humans and domestic animals and should be kept out of the reach of children. For just $29.94, you too can arm yourself to do mythic battle of a vaguely sexual nature with the devious forces that threaten your home, but you'll have to be willing to invest a little more than 30 seconds into the war effort. Everything here may be concentrated, fast-acting, powerful, long-lasting, cutting, penetrating, and generally deadly, but there is literally no end to the amount of it you can scrub into your floors, basin tub, tiles, clothes, dishes, windows, and walls. And not all of the cleaning agents are so sexy. One glass cleaner advertises having all the power of vinegar. The person who can tell me why I shouldn't just buy vinegar at a quarter the price can also probably explain the concept behind white carpets. Are we in heaven yet? Housework done properly can kill you. It can also cause depression, inertia, and the dreaded dishpan hands. If you're as tired of housework as I am, repeat with me after Germaine Greer. No more than 1 hour in any day may be spent on housework. What? You can't do all your housework in an hour? Of course you can't. Housework is designed to absorb every waking moment you spend in your home, but laundry can cushion feet just as well as wall carpeting can. When you run out of clean dishes, you can always order pizza. And who says you and your kids can't wear the same pair of jeans every day? Do take the garbage out, but beyond the basics, screw it. As Phyllis Diller says, cleaning the house while the kids are still growing is like shoveling the sidewalk before it stops snowing. If your family members don't like it, they'll learn to pick up your slack. Goddess knows you've picked up theirs from time to time. When a friend's kids were 2 and 4, an aunt bought them a plastic iron and ironing board for Christmas so that they could play housewives. The kids set up the board, got a couple of cups from the kitchen, pulled up 2 chairs, and had a tea party. They were delighted with the gift, but they wondered why the table was so high and the kettle so oddly shaped. Having never laid eyes on a real iron and board, they didn't quite get it. This is as it should be. Have you thrown away your iron yet? Someone asked me when I was a new mom as if it were a veritable rite of passage. Little kids are messy creatures. They don't need to be filthy, but they're disheveled, and iron is no match for the chaos that is life with young children. It's just a household hazard. Next time you pick up your kid from school or daycare, take a good look around. All the kids are a mess. The only difference between the kids whose parents iron and those who do not is that the ironers' kids have nasty little burns on their arms or foreheads. They're really no better pressed. Okay, I'm just going to read 2 more short pieces. This one's called Out of the Woods. Whoa. Anyway, maybe just one more. When Maya was younger, I'd sometimes roll my eyes at folks with older kids who warned me to enjoy it now. I was always waiting for the next stage. It had to get easier. I'd complain because friends and acquaintances we met on the street would focus on the baby. I felt shadow-like as I faded into the background, being called upon only for clarifying details. She's teething, or 13 months, 1 week, and 2 days. But it didn't take me long to find comfort there in the background, relieved of the small talk required of single people without kids, talk of weather, romance, and what are you doing these days? Now I find myself with a new identity crisis. It presses hardest against my chest when Maya is off with her dad or I myself am away, but it has more to do with a diverging of paths than with anything geographical. Now, if I told you how much I miss being joined at the hip with my daughter, you might roll your eyes. If I admitted that I still calculate periodically Maya's precise age, you might let out a little sigh at my sentimentalism, but that's cool. I'm going to tell you about my new identity crisis anyway because it's an impossibly hot August day and I'm riding a New York subway on my way to the airport when it occurs to me as I miss the J Street stop that I should carry a pager so that Maya could reach me in an emergency. And then, almost simultaneously, it occurs to me that even with the pager, I would be totally helpless to act. So this is my new identity crisis. It's a free-floating anxiety that attaches itself to telephones that ring too late at night. It's meeting a woman at a party who asks me how old Maya is. I say 7, and the woman says, so you're out of the woods. And suddenly I have the urge to correct myself. 7.5 in a week and 2 days. Actually, out of the woods. It's a bath I can steep in uninterrupted until the water gets cold. It's, no, Maya, you cannot borrow my platform shoes. It's the realization that I have absolutely no adult life experience without being mama. It's listening to friends without kids complain about how weird their moms are and offering, I can tell you how she got that way. It's leaning over instinctively to let Maya climb up onto my hip when she's tired and falling over as she lifts her full weight onto my side. It's no one ever saying you look too young to be a mother anymore. It's an impossibly hot August day on a New York subway, and I miss those crazy woods so much my jaw hurts. And so I'm reading from this bookmark because I wrote all these, and in Essential Hip Mama, all these people wrote them, and then it's, like, so I read one of them, but it's sort of dorky to only read stuff that other people wrote. So, sorry. So this last piece is called The Marathon Monks. In Japan, Tendai Buddhist monks run some 20 to 50 miles a day along the snowy slopes of Mount Hay. They do this for 100 consecutive days, rising at 1:30 in the morning to begin their route. They carry with them a sword and a rope to remind them to commit suicide if they fail. I imagine they entertain great doubt in the beginning, waking in the night thinking maybe those corporate suckers back in Tokyo had it right all along. Over a period of 7 years, the marathon monks go on 10 such 100-day runs, covering some 22,000 miles in all. At the end of the 7 years, they go without food or sleep for 9 days. Those who survive the entire ordeal are considered living Buddhas, wise and awake. Of course, you cannot join the order if you are a mother. You wouldn't have to. Thanks.
And here's Shenandoah Martins, and she posted this awesome zine called The Future Generation that is available here. She's been doing this for 15 years. She's so badass. Thanks. I gotta see if the mic's high enough. Like, if you can hear me, then it's high enough. Can you hear me? Or is it? Okay. I have no idea, but I mean, usually the mic's they make it too high, and then, okay, does it sound right now? Okay. Okay, I thought I would read the introduction to my zine. This is issue 14, and the theme is work. And it's because my daughter is 17, and I've been entering the workforce for the last so many years. I was, sorry, I can't explain it better than that, but I'll read the introduction, maybe you'll explain. Hello, this is the work issue, so think hard work and no return. Yeah, but we also have stories in here about working together, working for yourself, and even the work of being a mother, which I still think is the hardest job I've ever had. Actually, this issue has little of parenting and a lot of being an individual in the so-called work world. As a single parent and a mom of teenager, and as a previous stay-at-home welfare mama of many years, making a living is one of my major concerns. I had a child fairly young, and I didn't have much work experience before that. Nor did I want it, I must admit. My late teens and most of my 20s were about living in and creating radical community. It's the last 9 years of my life that I've gone through a slew of more typical jobs. I started this mission after I bottomed out one cold winter with going back to college when I was 29, with a mind to get a trade and rise out of poverty. However, I still don't have it together. I'm still poor. And as my daughter approaches college age, I'm very concerned with how I'll be able to financially help her and offer guidance, as I can't even figure out what to do for myself. It gets economically harder as your child gets older. I really don't think young children require much money, and I laugh at those statistics that say that they do. It's all such unnecessary crap. But a preteen often rejects their parents' values. That might mean rejecting the thrift store for the mall. And then there's the big kid thing. You know, eating as much as you, needing clothes more than you, thinking you suck. Which is hard, but then there's the stark reality of capitalism as your baby bird gets closer to be launched on her own. I can't help thinking there's a special pain involved for the working poor parent to see their child enter a system they can't win in. As many often focus on the war abroad and their hatred of the president, I'm not surprised and none too concerned, to tell you the truth, dealing with the war at home. It is a war. This class system, this division of wealth, ideology, housing, food, economy, media, it's part of the same war as the one we wage around the world, and it keeps on coming no matter who you vote for. I'm not saying that I don't cry sometimes seeing a picture of the wounded or the dead that my country is responsible for and my actions contribute to, or I don't get infuriated at the lies and politics and manipulation in the media. Just that I'm busy wondering if I'm going to make it sometimes. Too busy to wonder if the whole world is going to make it. It's the same old story. The rich get richer, the poor gets poorer. There's always money for war, but never for children. And the victims are most frequently the young, the old, the mothers, immigrants, and the minority groups. I'm aware of the indoctrination of exploitation. Still, I often feel stupid for being poor. I feel stupid when I have a demeaning job that doesn't pay me enough, and I'm dead tired, and I look like a dork, and I see some hipster looking freaky cool with more free time to make art, like they figured out a better way. They don't gotta struggle in the rat race like the ordinary sheep. Why can't I figure out a better way? Truly, I want to figure out a better way. I want a little everyday Brer Rabbit revolution. I know the way is within working together, yet you also need to take personal responsibility. I know I can't dream all the time, but I also know that without my dreams, I'm like dead. I blame myself. Yet I see other single moms whose phone gets turned off, and their teen kids are mad at them for being poor, and they, unlike me, work full-time and went to college right away in their early 20s. Like the mom who interviewed me for the Mama Files review, who shared with me her own story of coming from a similar D.C. political punk scene that I had once been in. She said she felt excluded after she got pregnant. Everyone was so conscious of everyone else's oppression, except, unfortunately, for the new mom in their midst. So she left that scene and she found her own independent way. Now she works full-time in a progressive clinic to provide health care for the gay community, and she teaches about HIV prevention in jails. I think even Ariel told me, like, last year her phone got turned off or something. And It's easy for a mama to fall through the cobweb of support of the counterculture. It's easy for a mama to struggle with a double workload and double standards in the mainstream society. But it's society that makes it hard, and we need to battle creatively. Even if sometimes we take conventional means because we must be responsible providers, conventional means alone are not the answer. That was the intro. Yes. And I thought I would read you a poem too. Like, there's a lot of things in here. It's not just me. Like, I'll read the content. It's like waitress poems, journal of a mama's new job, and then the employment diaries. That's me. I I kind of sum up like 8 years of all the jobs, like little poems about them, and then embracing the struggle, how I gave my weekends back to the labor movement. This is a woman, I thought her story was so great, but she was so busy, like most people, that in the end I took in her cat for 3 months because she was going off in this union labor organizing thing, and I thought if I helped with her cat that it would kind of make her feel like, oh yeah, I'll write that article for China, and she did. And then I wrote an essay called Baltimore Small Business because there's so many small businesses in my city. I'm really intrigued by it, and I think it's interesting. And then I have interview with a collective bookstore owner. It's a bookstore in my city that's been around for 12 years. And so I interviewed him about working in the collective. And Some of My Jobs by Blaster Al Ackerman. He's a famous male artist and writer, but a lot of people haven't heard of him. And then Chopping Wood by Sarah. I like this story a lot because just because it's a different, the work of chopping wood, feed your fire, and it's kind of a cool. And book review of Nickel and Dimed, which is a critical book review. And then the last thing is mother work ain't paid. It's just some statistics. But I'll read this poem because it's a pretty small poem, and it's about when I was a salad bar lady. Let's see. Oh, and also there's really, really, really good photographs in here from my friend Vicky, who lives in the Lower East Side of New York, and she goes to China a lot, and there's pictures of different professions. Yeah. This is called It's Just Salad. When I went in for the salad bar job interview and they told me how hectic things could get around lunchtime, they asked me how I would handle the stress of customers asking me for things while the salad was running low. And what would I do if I ran out of spinach? They did. It was Whole Foods. I don't know if I'll be sued now because I have a point about Whole Foods. Okay. I thought to myself as I gave the appropriate answers, I would remain calm, answer questions with a smile, do one thing at a time, and find the spinach. Jeez, it's just salad. I was surprised to find out how hard the job really was. Most days I kept on my feet running to fill up the various bins of salad as well as to keep the bar stocked with numerous utensils, containers, condiments, napkins, sugar, honey, half and half lids for the soup, the coffee, the tiny ones for the salad dressing cups, yet always being asked for something that wasn't there. Where are the sticks to stir my coffee? And other items that were in other parts of the grocery store. Sometimes people got very angry when they couldn't find what they wanted. I was surprised how rude people could be over just salad. Inevitably, people spilled everything, often even spilling their entire salad or the whole container of salad dressing, and walked away without a second thought. Somehow the salad bar was a special place where one was not inclined to clean up behind themselves. The tiny bins were hard not to spill from, and I wiped around them with my rag, and I pushed the piles back in order with the spoon placed in the right, as compulsively as one checks their email for a crush's reply. Keeping the salad bar full and clean was like building sandcastles by the seashore, endlessly knocked down and endlessly I built them up again. My presence was often not even noticed. Wearing a baseball cap, a name tag, and a white cook shirt turned me into an invisible class that was to fetch and clean like some kind of magic elves. This is a very different experience than being a waitress. But then again, your waitress brings you your whole dinner and dining experience. This was just salad. And And when I worked my butt off on a good day with the pride and satisfaction of keeping the lettuce, mixed greens, and spinach piled high all day, it was still just salad. What have I actually done with my life? And how can this job take so much out of me that I lay on the sofa on my day off, unable to move, body aching, mind numb, glad to be out of work and regretting going back tomorrow?
Yeah, come on. What are we doing now? Now we're going to be on a talk show. That's okay. We can handle it. What do you guys want to talk about? It's your job is to raise your hand.
What prompted you to write about motherhood alteration?
Well, I think when you're a writer, you can't not write. I mean, it's just the way it is. And when you're in the middle of motherhood, it's so all-consuming. Hey, honey, how are you? I don't see people, and then I see them. It's like, oh, yay. And you're in the middle of the whole thing, and it just becomes the focus of everything you're doing. You're breathing, you're just the day-to-day. And it gives you a way to process life and what you're thinking and discover things about yourself that you don't even know. I mean, I think that's what happens is you explore things to a point where you're like, oh, man, I really think that? I really did that? That's really where I'm, focusing on. And that's what it is for me, and it comes from every part of life. It's not just that motherhood, childhood thing. There are all the other aspects of life that you do it for also. There you go.
Thanks. I had my kid, and then I started college like 6 months later, and so I was just doing a lot of writing in college, and they are always asking you to write about yourself and stuff. So it just sort of happened naturally. Then I, started writing about being a mom and having this kid, and it was interesting because there was a real divide in terms of my professors who thought that was really awesome and were encouraging, and then the other half of my professors who were like, that's not a real subject, And so I think, in fact, the people who said it wasn't a real subject inspired me more, because I was like, oh, I'm going to show you a subject.
I write about being a mother a lot for the reason, like you said, I'm a writer, so I write about what I'm doing. But when I was thinking about the question as you're talking about it, I think sometimes I also write about it like purely to communicate and like no ego at all as far as like a writer. I'm like, I don't care if this is good writing, I don't care if it's misspelled, I just need change, I need to talk to somebody else, we need to talk about this, and probably that's the only thing I write like that. Other things I write, I take more time and I think about it as writing, but yeah, sometimes, okay, blah, blah, I don't know. Well, that's it. Sorry.
Does anybody else have anything on something?
And I think that the single versus coupled parenting is a huge thing that doesn't get talked about very much. And given that, so do you feel like when you're writing about that stuff and you're sort of talking about your experience, which a lot of which has to do with being single parents, do you feel like you're radical? I mean, like, do you feel like you're talking about stuff that people are uncomfortable hearing about? Like, in some ways, I think that sort of a coupled society in a certain kind of way, and so I often feel like a pariah in the midst of sort of coupled sense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to totally paraphrase down a more eloquent thing, because I was supposed to paraphrase into the mic, just about writing about being a single mom in a coupled society, basically. I felt like being a single mom was so much a part of my identity when Maya was a baby. And I wasn't expecting to feel that way. My mom had been single for a while. Growing up, I knew all these single moms and kids who were raised by single moms. But it seemed like all of a sudden everyone was like yelling at me about it. And so, to me, to become a single mom wasn't a big deal to me. I had always seen that as what I would do. And so the more radicalizing thing was to just suddenly have everybody in your face about it. Like, this is a horrible thing for you to have done. Like, your child is going to pay for this. And just like this real anger about it. Doing Hip Mama, to tell you the truth, like, one thing I really learned early on doing Hip Mama was that the married moms weren't sitting in Santa's lap either. It was like, so that was like, sort of the next thing was like, okay, so people, like Newt Gingrich wasn't in their face yelling at them, but there's just something like so devalued about motherhood in general. And it's very much, as with everything, is, like separate everyone, just totally like, make single moms feel like, okay, you're the only ones who ever felt this way. And so then it's impossible to network with, moms with partners. And then, all of our families are so fluid that like, married moms get divorced, single moms like get together with people. And then sometimes you've just built up this like awesome single mom community, and like, who are you now? Like, if you're getting laid, out of luck. But I mean, the politics of all of that was important to write about and to talk about and to be clear about and like out about being a single mom, and the great parts about it and the sucky parts about it. Everybody always told me like, oh, all you have to do, if you get a husband, like everything's going to be like so awesome, It's like such a lie, like, So I have to tell some of my married friends sometimes, like, just, get rid of the husband and everything's going to be awesome. Like, it's no bigger of a lie. It's like, might even be a smaller lie. Anyway.
Oh, I was if you want to add. Oh, yeah. I had something to say and then I forgot. Yeah, I think single moms rock. I think sometimes I don't even think about it, and it seems like a silly thing. It's almost if you said, like, you would have to clarify, like, I'm the tall mom, or I'm the tall mom with 2 friends and 3 cats, or, it just seemed to me like a weird thing, like, I'm China, and this is what I often don't think about it. I've always been a single mom. I just don't think about it, and especially, like, when I was younger, all my friends were single moms, and it was really strong, powerful, beautiful friendship. And over the years, I've noticed more and more, I've become more alienated. And I was looking around my city, and like everybody I know has partners. So lately, I was thinking about it in different ways. And I actually did an issue in my zine on fatherhood because I was just like really thinking about it heavily. And also, I had a lot of friends, like male friends I really liked, who became dads. And I saw a lot of partnered couples that looked really happy. And so I was thinking about it, and I was just thinking, like, that thing where I noticed, like, single mom thing, like, how they all got their phones turned off, I started noticing, like, things like how it was harder, and I still feel, like, good, but I just felt like it's harder, and I still felt like I don't want life to be easier through having a partnership, I want life to be easier because it's a more equal and just society, a society that cares about children, a society that has a better network. Like, I don't want to feel pressured into, like, this is, you know, even though I feel more like celebrating fatherhood, I'm still single mom, and I like it. And then on this trip, I've had the most amazing time, like being in a car of like really strong, beautiful, radical single moms. So it's like that's kind of what I needed. I needed to get that energy again, compare notes, and I come from a radical community, and what I have mostly been interested in talking about is talking to that radical community, if they're parents or not. It's more of the radical ideas I have interest in. As I get older, I don't really care. Like, I can't even define what's what anymore. It's like it's all life, and I'm all like part of the human experience, and like, you know, all moms are moms. I'm less defined as like what's radical.
I'd just like to add to what China said is that what we're always trying to do is divide people up. Life is always about trying to be divisive. And what I loved about Hip Mama, and I just need to clarify, I really am not a single mom. Okay, I was partnered through most of my children's growing. Although, you know, there are aspects of that when Ariel was talking about it not being a real piece of cake there were aspects of it in which I really was a single mom. I just happened to be married and there was a dad home. But, you know, and that's just another whole story altogether. But, and I know that many of you have the same story. So we're all about dividing things. And what I loved about Hip Mama is, I mean, honest to God, in the beginning, I never really, this will be a terrible confession, picked up on the fact that it was really, you know, a single mom kind of thing, that there was all of that emphasis. For me, it was the energy of somebody caring about moms in general and how we do this game, how it is, and that I didn't feel like I was any different from anybody else who might be featured in this magazine, and that all of who we are was important. It didn't matter what our story was. It didn't matter who we were. That everything was important about who we were, and that's what Ariel brought to the table, and that's what she dealt out for the world to have to handle. And it's been a long time. It's been 11 years. And so, and China's been at it for 14, 15 years. And so they were really at the cutting edge of leading other people into a world that would respect all of who we are. And I'm enormously grateful for that.
Well, I have one more thing to add, okay? After I started bringing out Hip Mama, right, I started reading in the newspaper about it sometimes. And it would say it was this zine for single moms. It's for, like, single welfare moms, right? And so, like, I had, like, 10 issues, and I, like, started counting up all the stories and compare them to, like, the national statistics of who's single and who's married and who's on welfare. And it was, like, almost exactly representative of what's really going on. But it's like you know, give a single mom more than, like, a really side column of, like, this weird, pathetic situation, you know, like, actually represent to, like, what's really going on. It's like, oh, this is some welfare zine, you know. It's like, it's, you know, it's really weird. People still say that. It's like this teen welfare zine. It's like, well, what, just because, like, that's considered valid, all of a sudden it's like, you know, that's what it is. And so that was a weird thing. But yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
What did she say? She liked her hair.
She likes China's hair colored. Other comments? Compliments? Yes.
I guess kind of along the same lines as what people have been talking about. I've never thought of motherhood like until very recently. And as I thought about it and started like come to grips with the reality of how like society kind of welcomes mothers, like, you know, you can have like 3 months off to take care of your kids, and you make your choice, like you work and you need therapy, like figure all this other stuff out, like there's always an assumption that there's someone else who's making money or doing this or doing that. Like you're all, you know, kind of like you make a lot of choices, and what being a mother is about, that I've noticed that people are kind of, well, that's just what women do. Like, they all make it. The kids grow up, they're fine. Like, you'll be fine. Like, just don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. Don't try to change it. And, I mean, it's really nice to, like, just have people kind of say, this is what's bad about it. This is what's great about it. Like, it doesn't have to be set up the same way it is right now. And, I mean, I just love to hear your comments about the revolution.
Compliment.
Any grandmothers in the book?
In the
writing.
there's a book. Katherine who just left us. We left her with her grandkids in Cameron. So there's not. I'm trying to think of a book if there's a lot of writing specifically about the experience of grandmothering, and I think maybe just a little. Some of the writers have grandkids, but yeah. Do you guys have anything on either of those comments? Oh. Yes. Yeah.
I have a question that might be strange, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Both of you only have one child, correct?
Right.
Do you feel there's societal pressure about a single child, about an only child? Do they have any? Do people ever bother you about having one child versus two or more? And obviously, you have many children, so does that ever come up? It seems like there's been a lot of writing about it recently, about the pressures to have more than one.
Yeah, you're supposed to have two. Because if you only have one, they're going to be lonely and what happened to you and what's your problem. But if you have three, it's like, whoo, guess you made a mistake there, You're overpopulating everything, it's a disaster, you're outnumbered. So two, you're supposed to have two.
That's good. Okay. I'm sorry, I knew the answer to that one. So, yeah. You're supposed to have a husband and two kids.
I think it's a question of being outnumbered, maybe. They don't like it when you're outnumbered. Yeah, if you're a single mom and you have one kid, like, we all make mistakes. But right, if you have two, it's like you're stupid. You don't know how to use the condom. Like, it's not, people are so dumb. I mean, you want to do. There are just so many pressures of what your family is supposed to look like, and those are gonna follow you. Like once you have kids, like through, they don't go away. Like once you start your family, like it's gonna be this intense pressure this whole time, and it's like a daily discipline to just be like, that is nonsense. Like this is like propaganda, this is like not reality. Like this is my family and this is what I'm doing, and I'm having one kid now and maybe I want more later, or maybe I don't want more later, maybe, just, I mean, it's to me it's just with everything about having kids, and then, and then they become teenagers and they agree that you have failed. And so it's sort of like it's like that marathon monk thing. It's like just this like strength training, like like just to like breathe through propaganda. Well, to me, I mean, sorry, I'm like hogging the mic, but I'm trying to. To me, like the further away you get from what society has earmarked as like an okay family, the more pressure there is, and sometimes the harder it is because then the decks are stacked against you. So, I guess right now you're supposed to be 30, then 32. So you have your first one when you're 30, you have your second one when you're 32, you've been married since you're 28, and you have the house and you have jobs and whatever. So, so if you're significantly younger than that, if you're significantly older than that, yeah.
Not older, just younger.
And
14, 15.
yeah. To me, I mean, it is harder, because you're pushed out of school. Like, it's really hard to stay in school. All the way that everything is set up. Like, I don't think it's like, I'm like so like pro teen parenting in a better world. Like, I think it's like, I mean, I had my kid, I wasn't that young. I was 19 when I had her. And it was, for me, that was perfect. That was great. Except that, there's just like all these roadblocks put up. And so, yes, the roadblocks are nonsense. However, they now exist since they have been placed there. They shouldn't be there. But most of the problems I think that young moms face are things that we need to work on pushing out of their way. In terms of mostly being able to stay in school. And then just all the garbage that teen moms get in terms of just people really looking down on them in a mean and hardcore way, and just saying like, oh, your life is over now. Your life is over now. You'll never be anything now. And just hearing that, I mean, some teenagers, it depends on your personality. I mean, some teenagers, will end up doing better in some ways than they might have if they hadn't had that sort of grounding challenge and everybody saying, you'll never do it, and they're like, just watch me. I mean, it's somewhat, it's not totally rare, but just hearing that voice all the time that you will never do anything, and then on top of that, trying to go back to high school and being told, oh, you can't enroll here, or, we have no daycare here, all of that is, it's rough.
I wish Katherine was here to talk about it. The whole tour, Katherine Arnoldi, she wrote a graphic novel.
Called The Amazing True Story of a Teenage Single Mom.
And she's also a grandma right now, and she is amazing, and this is like a big issue of hers, and every night she's been talking about stuff. She has a website, it's KatherineArnoldi.com, and I'll try to look into that.
And I was going to say about Katherine, too, is one of the things that she talks about, because she's in New York City, is that there are all kinds of statistics out there about, like, there are 12,000 teenage moms and in New York City, but there are 1,000 spots for daycare within the system for them. And so all of those things compound the situation and make it very, very difficult for teenage moms to stay in school and progress. And the other thing is she was involved in some people going in and trying to stay in school pretending to be teenage moms. And they're supposed to be able to do that, and they couldn't. So they constantly got turned away. So they're just really interesting information. And Katherine knows an enormous amount about how to bypass all of that. So if anybody ever knows anybody, that's the website to go to, and she'd be more than willing to guide anybody anywhere.
Yeah, she had a class action lawsuit against the Board of Education in New York for coercing teen moms to leave school. So she's a really good resource if you go to her website. Maybe just a couple more questions? Yes?
Ariel, you said it when you were meeting earlier, you mentioned about, I think your daughter was like 7 and people finally stopped saying you look too young to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 21 when I had my oldest daughter, and she was about to turn 7, and everyone thought I was the babysitter, and she wanted to be a mom, and oh, I know how that happened. It's a mistake, and now I'm 28, and I have 2 kids, and people are finally saying, like, okay, I get it, you're a mom. But now, all the mothers I'm surrounded by are much older. You know, they're in their mid, even late 40s, different socioeconomic status. You know, nannies and people to clean up, and they're like, but you're young. It's so easy for you. It's so much easier.
Right.
Even my sister, who's 10 years older and having young kids, it's so much easier for you. And I wondered if you guys who had kids when you were younger, if you get that, like, you can't complain because you're young, you have all this energy. You should just, you know, enjoy.
I had my daughter when I was 21 too, and I just never thought it was young. Like, that's why I didn't speak up like teenage mom, because I don't know, I wasn't a teenage mom. People always think I'm younger than I am. Like, I'm going to be 39 at the end of the month, and I still get this, like, you know, like, you look young, and, oh, wait, I'm sorry, now I forgot losing, what was the original question? Like, that you have more.
You know, before it was like, well, you shouldn't really be doing that. You're too young. And now it's like, well, you should do it and do it better.
I just think maybe your friends are mean, or like, you know what I mean? Because they're just like, well, because they're so busy thinking of themselves, like they understand that it's hard for themselves, but you know, you're not them, so then they're just saying it's easier for you. I don't, yeah, because I mean, everybody has their own struggle. Everybody has hard, you know, and everybody has good and bad. Like, you know, I'm like, personally, stuff I wouldn't speak in the microphone, like, necessarily, but like celebrating single motherhood, we also like celebrated young motherhood, you know, like everything good about it. But I mean, I really think there must be something to celebrate about, like, you know, every different kind of motherhood, or, you know, you could be together, like, whatever you are, if you're together with a bunch of other people similar to you, you know, that you could celebrate it. So, yeah, I just think your friends are mean.
You had one more comment or question? Thank you.
Can you say that again to the microphone and be like part of us? For that.
I think it's really cool that all three of you got up here and said something and read something.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think it's really cool that you got up here and said something. Thanks.
Say a little bit about what's next for each of you, like past about writing or books or dreams or what's next, and where are you going on your
Well, yeah, we're kind of tired. We're thinking, what's next is Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine. Yeah. We just have two. We're just going to Portland tomorrow, and then we're going to Burlington the next day.
And three readings, 2 places.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of like that.
We're all like, be here now.
we're like really feeling super zen.
But we could still kind of, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been writing some fiction of late, and I just finished a novel. So, but I don't know about it when it's going to be published, in terms of like when it's going to make its entrance into the world.
And I hope I have books published one day. But I feel like a lot of the reason why I don't is myself. Like, myself is a big enemy, so I'm always like fighting and working with myself. And you know, I put the hours into writing, but I need to get it together more and have book proposals and stuff like that. But that's my eventual goal.
I'm working on a couple of projects, and I just don't know how they're going to quite pan out. But I will say that for me, it's a little different than it is for China and Ariel, because my little 2-year-old will be 30 this year. So, you know, my life is configured in a very different way, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I have some space, you know, other than trying to figure out how to pay the rent, which is always...
That happens one day?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And you know, that's a quite remarkable thing too. You know, it's really quite remarkable to have them as adults in your life. And I'm very grateful for that whole thing. But it does shift what's available to you in availability of time and energy. And so a couple of things that are on my list that I'm working on, I hope to bring a little further along. And you've been a great audience. You know. Well, thank you very much.